The city of Brookside was a place of contrasts, gleaming new developments beside crumbling old neighborhoods, hope and hardship living side by side. 16-year-old Amara Johnson knew both sides well. She was the daughter of Mayor Evelyn Johnson, a woman who had fought her way from poverty to the city's highest office. But Amara was also just a teenager, trying to find her place in a world that often saw her only for her skin. On a humid Friday evening, Amara left her friend's house, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She wore her school uniform, a navy skirt and white blouse, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She walked with purpose, her mind on the upcoming debate tournament and her mother's proud smile. She didn't notice the police cruiser until it slowed beside her. "Hey, you!" an officer called out. Amara stopped, her heart thudding. Two officers stepped out, their faces unreadable. "Where are you going?" one asked. "Home," Amara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "What's in the bag?" the other demanded. Amara handed it over, watching as they rifled through her books and debate notes. The officers exchanged glances. "We've had reports of suspicious activity in the area," one said. "You fit the description." Amara's hands trembled. She'd heard stories like this before, stories her mother had tried to shield her from. "I haven't done anything wrong," she said quietly. The officers ignored her, asking more questions, their tone growing sharper. A small crowd gathered, some filming on their phones. Amara felt exposed, her cheeks burning with shame and anger. She tried to explain who she was, but the officers cut her off. "We'll call your parents," one said, as if it were a threat. Amara's mother answered on the first ring. Within minutes, Mayor Johnson's car screeched to a halt at the curb. Evelyn Johnson stepped out, her presence commanding. "What is going on here?" she demanded. The officers faltered, realizing too late who they had stopped. "We were just doing our job, ma'am," one stammered. Evelyn's eyes blazed. "Your job is to protect, not to humiliate. This is my daughter. She is a child, and she has done nothing wrong." The crowd murmured, some in awe, others in anger. Amara stood frozen, tears threatening to spill. Her mother wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. "We're going home," Evelyn said, her voice cold as steel. The officers tried to apologize, but the damage was done. The video of the encounter spread quickly, sparking outrage across the city. That night, Amara sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered. Evelyn knelt beside her, taking her hands. "You have nothing to be sorry for. This is not your shame. It's theirs." Amara nodded, but the hurt lingered. She wondered how many others had suffered in silence without a mother in power to protect them. The next day, Mayor Johnson called a press conference. She spoke with passion and pain, her words echoing through the city. No child should be made to feel like a suspect because of the color of their skin. We must do better. We must be better. She announced new policies, mandatory bias training for officers, a civilian review board, and a youth advisory council led by Amara herself. Amara was hesitant at first, but her mother encouraged her. "Your voice matters," Evelyn said. "You can help change things for others." Amara agreed, determined to turn her pain into purpose. She met with other young people, listening to their stories, sharing her own. Together, they drafted proposals for safer, more just policing. The officers involved were suspended pending investigation. Some in the city defended them, saying they were just doing their jobs. Others demanded accountability. Amara watched the debate unfold, her heart heavy but hopeful. She knew change would not come easily, but she also knew she was not alone. As the weeks passed, Amara found strength in her community. She spoke at schools and churches, urging young people to stand up for their rights. She worked with the review board, helping to shape new policies. Slowly, the city began to change. Officers attended training sessions, learning to see the people they served, not just the uniforms or the stereotypes. Amara's story inspired others to speak out. Parents demanded better for their children. Young people found their voices. The city, once divided by fear and mistrust, began to heal. Amara realized that her ordeal, though painful, had become a catalyst for transformation. Amara's life changed in ways she never expected. She was invited to join panels on youth leadership and racial justice. At first, she felt out of place, just a teenager, still learning who she was. But as she listened to others and shared her story, she found her confidence growing. She realized that her experience, though painful, gave her a unique perspective and a powerful voice. At school, some classmates treated her differently. A few whispered that she was only in the spotlight because of her mother. Others, especially those who had faced their own encounters with bias, thanked her for speaking up. Amara learned to navigate the attention, focusing on the work rather than the noise. She poured her energy into the youth council, determined to make real change. The council met weekly in the City Hall's old library, a room filled with sunlight and the scent of old books. Amara led discussions on police relations, school safety, and community trust. She listened to stories of fear and frustration, but also of hope and resilience. Together, the group drafted a list of recommendations, which they presented to the City Council. Mayor Johnson watched her daughter with pride. She saw the way Amara listened, the way she brought people together. Evelyn knew that her daughter's courage was helping to heal wounds that had festered for generations. She also knew that the journey was far from over. Change, she reminded Amara, was a marathon, not a sprint. Meanwhile, the investigation into the officers' conduct continued. The review board, which now included community members and youth representatives, examined body camera footage and interviewed witnesses. The officers admitted they had acted on instinct, but could not explain why Amara had seemed suspicious to them. The board found that their actions violated department policy and recommended disciplinary action. The police chief, under public pressure, announced new reforms. Officers would undergo regular bias and de-escalation training. The department would recruit more officers from diverse backgrounds. And most importantly, there would be greater transparency and accountability for all police interactions. Some officers grumbled, but many welcomed the changes, eager to rebuild trust with the community. Amara's story continued to spread. Local news outlets covered her work with the Youth Council, and national organizations invited her to speak at conferences. She met activists, lawyers, and other young leaders who were fighting for justice in their own cities. Each encounter reminded her that she was part of something bigger, a movement for dignity and equality. At home, Amara found comfort in her family. Her mother's strength, her father's quiet support, and her little brother's laughter kept her grounded. On weekends, they cooked together, sharing stories and dreams. Amara cherished these moments, knowing that love was the foundation of her resilience. But the trauma of that night lingered. Sometimes, Amara woke from nightmares, her heart racing. She remembered the fear, the humiliation, the sense of being powerless. She talked to her mother about it, and together they found a therapist who helped Amara process her emotions. Healing, she learned, was not linear. It was a journey, with setbacks and breakthroughs. As the months passed, Amara's confidence grew. She became a mentor to younger students especially those who felt unseen or misunderstood. She started a peer support group at her school, where students could share their experiences and find solidarity. The group quickly grew, becoming a safe haven for those who needed it most. One afternoon, a shy freshman named Jada approached Amara after a meeting. Jada shared that she'd been stopped by police on her way home from school, questioned for no reason other than walking alone. Amara listened, offering comfort and advice. "You're not alone," she assured Jada. "Your story matters. We're here for you." Jada's eyes filled with tears, but she left with her head held higher. Amara's work began to attract attention from city leaders. She was asked to help design a new curriculum for local schools, focused on civil rights, empathy, and community engagement. She collaborated with teachers and activists, ensuring that the lessons were honest and empowering. The curriculum was soon adopted citywide, sparking important conversations in classrooms and at dinner tables. Meanwhile, the officers involved in Amara's stop faced disciplinary hearings. The process was public, and the city watched closely. Amara was called to testify, her voice steady as she recounted the events of that night. She spoke not with anger, but with clarity and conviction. "I want to live in a city where every child feels safe," she said, "where no one is judged by the color of their skin." The hearings ended with the officers being suspended without pay and required to complete extensive training before returning to duty. Some community members felt the punishment was too lenient, while others believed it was a step in the right direction. Amara understood both perspectives. She knew that true justice was complicated and that real change required both accountability and the opportunity for growth. Mayor Johnson continued to support her daughter, both publicly and privately. She used her platform to advocate for broader reforms, including independent oversight of the police department and increased funding for youth programs. Her leadership, combined with Amara's activism, helped shift the city's culture toward greater empathy and inclusion. Amara's relationship with her mother deepened. They spent long evenings talking about their hopes for the city and the challenges they faced. Evelyn reminded Amara that leadership was not about being perfect, but about showing up, listening, and learning. Amara took those lessons to heart, striving to lead with humility and compassion. As the school year ended, Amara reflected on how much she had grown. She had turned a moment of humiliation into a movement for justice. She had found her voice, and in doing so, had helped others find theirs. The journey was far from over, but Amara faced the future with hope, knowing that she was not alone. Summer arrived, and with it came new opportunities for Amara. She was invited to intern at City Hall, working alongside her mother and other city leaders. The experience opened her eyes to the complexities of government and the slow, often frustrating pace of change. Still, Amara was undeterred. She learned to navigate meetings, draft proposals, and build coalitions with people from all walks of life. One afternoon, Amara attended a community forum on public safety. The room was filled with residents, police officers, and activists. Tensions ran high, but Amara spoke with calm conviction. "We all want to feel safe," she said. "But safety means more than just police on the streets. It means trust, respect, and opportunity for everyone." Her words resonated, and the room grew quiet as people listened. After the forum, a police officer named Officer Daniels approached Amara. He admitted that he had once held biases he wasn't proud of, but her story had made him reflect. "I want to do better," he said. Amara thanked him, encouraging him to keep learning and to share his journey with others. She realized that real change often began with honest conversations and small acts of courage. Amara's work with the Youth Council continued. They launched a citywide campaign called See Me, encouraging residents to share their stories and challenge stereotypes. The campaign included art installations, social media posts, and public events. It quickly gained traction, sparking dialogue and building bridges between communities that had long been divided. At home, Amara's family celebrated her achievements, but also reminded her to rest and take care of herself. Her mother insisted on family dinners, where they laughed, argued, and supported one another. Amara cherished these moments, knowing that her family's love was her greatest source of strength. As the summer drew to a close, Amara was invited to speak at a national youth leadership conference. Standing on stage before hundreds of young people, she shared her story, the fear, the humiliation, the anger, and ultimately, the hope. "We are not defined by what happens to us," she said. "We are defined by how we respond, by the courage we show, and by the love we give." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Afterward, young people from across the country approached Amara, sharing their own stories of struggle and resilience. She listened, encouraged, and reminded them that their voices mattered. Amara realized that her journey was part of a much larger movement for justice and dignity. Back in Brookside, the city continued to change. The police department hired more officers from diverse backgrounds, and community policing programs flourished. Schools adopted restorative justice practices, and youth voices were included in decision-making. The scars of the past remained, but they were no longer ignored. As Amara entered her senior year, she reflected on how much she had changed. The memory of that night, her fear, her humiliation, was still with her, but it no longer defined her. Instead, it fueled her determination to keep fighting for justice, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt powerless or unseen. Amara's work with the Youth Council led to the creation of a permanent advisory board for the city. Young people now had a seat at the table, their voices shaping policies on education, safety, and opportunity. Amara was proud to see her peers step into leadership roles, their confidence growing with every meeting. The See Me campaign became a model for other cities, inspiring similar movements across the country. Amara was invited to the state capitol to meet with lawmakers, sharing her insights on youth engagement and police reform. She spoke with clarity and conviction, her words carrying the weight of lived experience and hope for the future. At home, Amara's family celebrated her achievements, but also reminded her to stay humble and true to herself. Her mother, Mayor Johnson, continued to lead with integrity, her own journey inspiring others to believe in the power of change. Together, they became symbols of resilience and hope for Brookside and beyond. One evening, Amara received a letter from one of the officers involved in her stop. He apologized sincerely, describing how the experience had forced him to confront his own biases and commit to doing better. Amara read the letter with mixed emotions, pain, forgiveness, and a sense of closure. She wrote back, encouraging him to keep learning and to use his story to help others. Graduation day arrived, and Amara stood on stage, her heart full. She looked out at her classmates, her family, and the community that had supported her. In her speech, she spoke of courage, justice, and the importance of never giving up. "We are all more than what happens to us," she said. "We are the change we choose to make." The crowd erupted in applause. As Amara accepted her diploma, she felt a deep sense of peace. She knew her journey was just beginning, but she was ready for whatever came next. She had turned a moment of injustice into a movement for hope, and in doing so had helped her city and herself heal. Amara's story became a legend in Brookside, a reminder that even the darkest moments can lead to light. Her courage inspired others to speak out, to stand up, and to believe in the possibility of redemption. And as the sun set on her graduation day, Amara walked forward, her head held high, ready to keep building a world where every voice was heard and every life was valued.